Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 316, Watts with Watson. The episode begins with Ash remembering his previous two Hoenn Gym battles and how tough and fun they were at the same time as he arrives at Mauville City Gym. Ash was more than ready for his third gym battle, eagerly awaiting it as he made a fist, exclaiming that he knew he was going to do well. Although Brock warned him not to be overconfident, and May and Max encouraged him a little bit, although shared the same sentiment as Brock, telling him not to be overconfident. Though none of Ash's friends could hide their excitement really, because they knew it was going to be a great battle, no matter who won. Ash couldn't wait to battle anymore, so he pushed on the door to the gym, wanting to open it. But much to Ash and the gang's surprise, even though Ash just put his hand on the door very lightly, the door gives away and fell down, causing Ash to stumble inside since his hand was still on the door when it fell, and his friends quickly followed him in, and they all stood on the fallen door, when suddenly bars popped up on the sides of the door, and noticed that there was an electrical track below them that proceeded to turn the door into a moving platform. Just then, a sliding door closed behind Ash and the gang as the door that they were standing on moved forward, indicating that sliding door was the actual door to the gym, and this was just a platform that was placed as the door. Anyways, the door, now a moving platform, took Ash and the gang along the electrical track, making Ash a little excited as he suspected that this platform was taking them all to the gym. However, he was a little nervous, along with his friends, as the platform was moving at an immensely fast pace, and its speed only increased when it went up an incline in the gym. This just made Max even more nervous, as he claimed that he felt like he was on a roller coaster in an amusement park, and May shared this sentiment, screaming that she wanted to get off immediately. Just then, though, Max's assumption about this platform being a roller coaster was then proved right, as it finished climbing up the incline and then went down roller coaster style, making everyone scream, as we see that an old man was watching what was currently going on from a video screen, who was laughing to himself in joy as he watched, talking to himself as he revealed that he was the one responsible for what was currently happening to Ash and the gang, stating that it was just a fun little prank, and brags to himself about how cool he was to be able to set up a prank like this, talking about how he turned the power to the gym on and designed the fake door platform. The old man then began to laugh his ass off, really enjoying his prank still, when his assistant, a nerdy-looking scientist, approached and nervously asked the old man if this prank was really necessary, with the old man confirming that it was, since it kept people who were going to challenge him on their toes, revealing the fact that he was the Mauville City gym leader, Watson. Watson also states that he just wanted to do the prank because it made him happy, and it made him feel as if he was on the electric ride itself. Though the assistant just sighed in annoyance at this, telling Watson that he was overreacting. Like, he didn't understand how he could feel as if he was on the platform when he actually wasn't. And he also told Watson that he should focus more on being a gym leader so that trainers could challenge him, instead of worrying about pleasing himself with making others ride an electric platform. Watson simply tried to ignore his assistant, telling him to shut the fuck up, explaining that Ash and the gang were approaching the final part of the platform riding, his favorite and most intense part. This part soon arrived, as the platform then speeds onto an indoor lake and bounces on the water, making Ash and the gang hold on as tight as they could, nervous that they were going to fall in the water, as the platform bounced uncontrollably until, thankfully, it came out of the water and instead went into a tunnel. An indoor tunnel, to be exact. May then shouted presumably what Ash, Max, and Brock were thinking as well, stating that whoever the gym leader was, they must have been insane to put their challengers through this weird platform test, believing that it was actually a full-on test implemented by the gym leader. Just then, as the platform turned a corner, a sliding door opened, and on the other side was none other than a Raikou, one of the legendary beasts from Johto. Max had only ever heard stories about the legendary beasts, so he was absolutely amazed to see it in person, but noticed that something was weird about the Raikou. Ash at first brushed it off as the Raikou being scared and thinking of an attack to use against them, and this then happened as the Raikou roared extremely loud and angrily as it unleashed a massive thunderbolt, causing Ash and the gang to duck to avoid it, and then Pikachu jumps off Ash's shoulder and uses Thunderbolt of its own, thinking that would be enough, but Raikou wasn't injured whatsoever. Ash panicked as he thought that Raikou was going to attack with a Thunderbolt again, so he knew that he had to defeat the Raikou somehow, as he told Pikachu to use Iron Tail directly on Raikou's head. And although this Iron Tail hit the Raikou head-on, suddenly electricity began to build up around Raikou, causing Pikachu to cry out as it was getting shocked by some of this emitting electricity. Ash and the gang had never seen anything like this before, so they wondered what was going on, when suddenly all the electric sparks around Pikachu accumulated into an explosion, sending Ash and the gang and Pikachu flying back off of the platform because of the immense explosion, which also happened to cause a whole bunch of smoke, which soon cleared, leading Ash and the gang to realize that the Raikou was missing its head. May and Ash and Brock were disturbed by this, like, damn, what? A Pokemon was beheaded? But when Max further examined the Raikou, he came to the conclusion that it was actually just a robot. Ash then went up to Pikachu, who had landed by him, and asked if he was alright, since he was the one who was caught in the brunt of the explosion. And thankfully, Pikachu turned around to face Ash, wiping off any of the soot from the explosion, and smiled happily, indicating that it was fine, and then it began sparking its cheeks wildly, indicating that it was ready for a battle. The battle against the Mauville gym leader. Speaking of the gym leader, a side door then opens, and Watson and his assistant come out and greet Ash and the gang. Watson then laughs uncontrollably hard as he walked up to Ash and the gang, surprised, but also kind of happy that Ash had actually managed to defeat his mechanical Raikou, and proceeded to explain how the Raikou was in fact a robot, and it was just a little training dummy that he had created, and he was very happy with Ash for managing to get past it, stating that not many challengers did. May was annoyed that Watson had put Ash and the gang through a prank, and demanded to know where the gym leader was so that she could talk to him and report Watson for his bad behavior. But this just made Watson laugh, as he revealed that he was the Mauville gym leader, and he then introduced himself as Watson and introduces his assistant, named Watts. Ash was overjoyed to hear this, and immediately asked Watson for a battle, to which Watson agreed, complimenting Ash's skill with defeating his Raikou robot, and also just his enthusiastic nature, stating that he hadn't had a trainer like Ash challenge him in a long time, and makes a confidential joke about how bad some of his challengers were, and laughs to himself. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, somewhere else in Mauville City, on top of a large hill, they had arrived in front of a large power station, with Jesse and James having been directed there by Meowth. As the three of them saw that the power station looked to be abandoned, Jesse and James questioned Meowth as to why he had taken them to this abandoned power station, leading Meowth to introduce the place as the power station known as the New Mauville. And although Meowth admitted that he was surprised that it was still intact despite it being abandoned, he thought that it was big enough to act as the perfect place for Team Rocket's base and home that Giovanni wanted them to set up. Jesse and James, of course, were intrigued by wanting to please Giovanni, so they agreed to check out the power station. Although, as soon as James opens the door, Team Rocket finds that the room was full of Voltorbs, Magnetons, and Magnemites, so the Team Rocket shrieks in fear and closes the door immediately. They wait a few seconds and hope that the Pokemon somehow disappeared by now and open the door, but when they peek back inside, they see that the Pokemon were still there, so they nervously close the door again. And they lean against the door, now debating how the fuck they were to get rid of all the electric types so that they could go inside. Although they couldn't come up with anything, so they give up and start to walk off. Aside from Meowth, though, as he still wanted the base. And he figured that Team Rocket could kill two birds with one stone. They could get a base for Giovanni, and also capture all the electric Pokemon and give them to him. Meowth then adds that Giovanni would fucking need those electric Pokemon to help electrically power his devices. And we then see Meowth have one of his boss fantasies, as the Voltorbs give Giovanni a mild jolt to wake him up in the morning, acting as his alarm clock. And we also see the Magnetons powering his blow dryer. Although since Jesse and James didn't see this fantasy like Meowth did, they were still hesitant to go and get the electric Pokemon, as they didn't know how to battle them, although they were convinced by Meowth when he mentioned that if they gave all those Pokemon to Giovanni, they would definitely get a promotion. This made them go absolutely insane with excitement, as they all cheered, ready to steal the electric Pokemon. Meanwhile, back with Ash and Ken, Watson and Ash have now taken their spots on the Mauville City Gym's battlefield on opposite sides, as Watt stepped up to be the referee of the battle, declaring the rules, being that the battle would be 3-on-3. And exclaims that the battle could begin whenever Ash and Watson were ready. Watson laughs, admitting to Ash that he was in for a hard match, sending out all three of his Pokemon that he planned to be using, his Voltorb, Magnemite, and Magneton, and stated that the battle would be difficult for Ash because he had been battling with these three Pokemon for years, and had a very strong bond with them, and this was evident by all three of his Pokemon eagerly surrounding him, wanting to help him battle. As Watson then laughs, excited to get the battle underway, Brock, May, and Max were shocked that Watson just disclosed which Pokemon he would be using, though they quickly shrugged this off and instead turned their minds to what Pokemon Ash should use to counter the Voltorb, Magnemite, and Magneton. Max was thinking that Ash would have a difficult time, since he remembered that Trico was good against electric types, but it wasn't good against steel types, which Magnemite and Magneton were. May then added that Corphish would be a bad choice all around, because it was bad against electricity, and Brock added that since Tailo was weak to electric types as well, it would also have a disadvantage against Watson. So Brock, May, and Max wondered what Ash was planning, with three of his Pokemon being at a disadvantage. It was then that Ash announced that he was going with Pikachu, with Brock and May thinking that it was the best choice. Not just because Pikachu was the only one of Ash's Mons without an electric disadvantage, but also because Pikachu was literally sparking with excitement to battle. It really wanted to battle against Watson and his Pokemon. So that's why Ash had chosen. Watson laughed, happy that Ash was using an electric type against his, and he continued to laugh, stating that he liked this because electric Pokemon were not good against electric Pokemon. So he figured that his Magnemite was stronger and could easily get the win against Ash's Pikachu. Speaking of his Magnemite, he sent in his Magnemite, and the battle officially began, as declared by Watt, being Pikachu versus Magnemite. And Magnemite started off the battle by using Swift, but Pikachu easily dodged. Ash then orders Pikachu to go in for a Thunderbolt on Magnemite, leading Watson to laugh again, reminding him that electric-type attacks weren't good against electric types. Laughing his ass off at what he thought was a dumb move, but much to his immense shock, along with Brock, May, and Max's and Watt's shock, Pikachu's Thunderbolt proved to be so powerful that it knocked out Magnemite with a single hit. Watts was amazed to see Magnemite fall on the ground instantly, and declared Pikachu the first win. As Brock, May, and Max were trying to figure out how the fuck Pikachu was able to take out Magnemite so quick, Ash was just happy to have the first win, as he congratulated his Pikachu, claiming that he figured Pikachu's Thunderbolt would be strong enough. Watson just continued to laugh, stating that Ash had only won by a fluke, and it was a fluke that wasn't going to be repeated, as he sent out his second Pokemon, Voltorb, and instantly has it going for a Screech. But just as it starts to use Screech, Pikachu uses Thunderbolt again, and Voltorb was also taken out in a single hit. Absolutely amazing, everyone, at Pikachu's performance. as Voltorb fell to the ground, knocked out. Even Ash was a bit surprised by Pikachu's power as he saw the Voltorb smoking from the attack. Watson's assistant Watt was of course shocked as he declared Pikachu the victor again, stating that the score was now 2-0. Watson at this point was kind of angry and determined to defeat Ash, not wanting his Pokemon to be taken out in a single hit again, as he sends out his ace, his strongest Pokemon, Magneton, and angrily orders a Zap Cannon attack. But Pikachu just once again uses a Thunderbolt, and this breaks through the Zap Cannon and even damages the stadium floor a little bit, as Magneton fell to the ground hard, being knocked out. In a single hit, just like Watson's previous two Pokemon, absolutely amazing, May, Brock, and Max. As Watson recalled his smoking Magneton and saw that the battlefield was also smoking, all he could do was stare at Ash as Watts officially declared Ash the winner by a landslide. As Ash then congratulated Pikachu on the very easy victory, Brock, May, and Max were still in disbelief of his victory and the fact that he had clean swept the gym, as Brock remarked that Ash had never done that before. And Brock, May, and Max also comment on how fucking strong Pikachu had seemingly gotten. Watson felt humiliated for losing so horribly and got depressed at his loss, but he knew he had to put on a brave face for the challenger and not be a sore loser, so he walked over to Ash and with a fake smile, he presented him with his award, his third home gym badge, the Dynamo badge. He then fake laughs, thinking that as long as he laughed, his true nature wouldn't be revealed, and congratulates Ash as he suddenly walks away out of the gym, and his assistant Watt notices this and tries to speak with Watson, knowing that he was depressed and being concerned about this, but Watson was already gone, and Ash had gotten Watt's attention, explaining that he was just about to celebrate his win with May, Max, and Brock, when suddenly he noticed that Pikachu had a fever and was feeling sick. As Watts examined Pikachu in Ash's arms, he came to the conclusion that yes, Pikachu was very ill and needed to get to the Pokemon Center immediately. Speaking of the Pokemon Center, Watson had went there, giving his Magnetite, Magneton, and Voltorb to Nurse Joy so that she could heal them up after the tough battle, although Watson was sad while doing so. Nurse Joy simply promised to heal Watson's Pokemon and told him to come back soon, as it wouldn't take long. But Watson simply thanked Nurse Joy for healing them and stated that he wouldn't be coming back. Watts would instead come and pick up his Pokemon. Watson then grabs a suitcase full of shit, meaning that he must have packed up, and he began to leave the Pokemon Center when Nurse Joy called out to him, asking what was wrong with him, stating that he wasn't his usual cheery and laughy self. Instead, he just looked super depressed, and Nurse Joy knew something was wrong, because Watson was never depressed. Watson simply argues that he was just sad because he was having a bad day today, and left the Pokemon Center, and seconds after Watson had left, Ash and the gang arrived with Ash holding Pikachu, and giving it to Nurse Joy, explaining the situation, making Nurse Joy worried. She didn't even have to hear the situation to get worried. She just saw how Pikachu looked, and she was like, oh shit. Despite the surprised state she was in, though, she still agreed to try and treat Pikachu when Ash and the gang desperately asked her to, because she wanted to do her job. Meanwhile, by now, Watson had went over to a stream and sat there, which happened to be by the abandoned power plant, and began to mull over his very disastrous loss to Ash, hoping to think on the battle in peace here, and he does, as he keeps replaying his loss to Pikachu and Pikachu's power over and over and over in his head. He just keeps replaying it, and frustratingly remarks how he had no fucking chance, and begins to debate if he was really cut out for being a gym leader anymore. He thought that maybe his time was up and he was just too fucking weak to battle. Just as he was considering rescinding his gym leader title, though, Watson noticed something tugging on his shirt, so he turned to see that an Electrike had approached him and was growling happily. Watson was pleased by this and asked what the Electrike was even doing. It seems as though it had come to Watson to play, as it snuggles up right by his side and placed its head on his lap, leading Watson to get happy again and pet it, as he relaxed upon petting it, and Electrike also relaxed. Watson then took out some Pokemon food from his briefcase and feeds the Electrike, as the Electrike happily eats, and Watson finally laughs, at least a little bit, signifying that Electrike was helping him get his joy back a little bit. Electrike found Watson's Pokemon food very good, so it continued to indulge in it as Watson watched happily. Meanwhile, back at the Pokemon Center, Nurse Joy had hooked Pikachu up to a large machine in the ER so that she could first find out what was the cause of Pikachu's sickness, because she obviously needed the cause before she could treat it. Ash sadly watched as the machine caused Pikachu to emit plenty of sparks, and Nurse Joy stated that the reason for this was because the machine drew out any extra electricity, and this meant that Pikachu had a whole bunch of extra electricity somehow, and stated that this electricity would power Pikachu up, but Pikachu would struggle to contain all of it, which was why it was currently passed out pretty much. Joy also warned that Pikachu could get worse without intervention and release a whole bunch of electricity at once, almost killing itself basically. It's basically what had happened in the first episode of the Hoenn Saga. Upon hearing that Pikachu and his electric attacks became more powerful when he was overcharged, Brock realized that that was the reason for Ash's very quick and easy victory over Watson. Basically, Pikachu was powered up so much that it was able to easily win, to the point where it could defeat Watson's Pokemon with one hit. Nurse Joy knew that the cause of Pikachu overloading on electricity must have been because it was exposed to an immense amount of electricity, so asked Ash if Pikachu had been exposed to any high voltage of electricity recently, which makes Ash remember the incident with the robot Raikou, and then told Nurse Joy about the immense amount of electricity that the Raikou had sent Pikachu's way, and stated that the Raikou robot must have been the cause of Pikachu becoming overcharged. Nurse Joy asked for more details about the robot Raikou incident, as Brock took the opportunity to try and impress Nurse Joy by telling her more information, though since he was so flustered by Nurse Joy, he accidentally said that Pikachu had come in contact with an actual Raikou, not a Raikou robot, shocking Nurse Joy, but thankfully Ash was able to correct Brock and give her more details on what exactly the Raikou robot was, and how he was challenging Watson's gym when Watson decided to pull a prank on them with that robot. Nurse Joy was shocked to hear that Watson would pull a prank like that, not thinking that Watson would ever do anything like that, but regardless, she then declared that now that she knew Pikachu's issue, she could treat him. So she activated the machine that Pikachu was hooked up to and used it to drain the excess electricity out of Pikachu. And after a while, Pikachu was now recovered and jumped to Ash after it had stopped sparking and was unhooked from the machine. Nurse Joy then confirms that Pikachu would be fine, and Ash thanks her for his assistance, but makes sure that Pikachu actually thought that he was okay, and Pikachu responded by smiling and putting up a paw, signaling that it was okay, leading Ash to apologize for not realizing that Pikachu was sick sooner. Just then, Watson's assistant Watts storms into the Pokemon Center and questions Nurse Joy if she had seen Watson, claiming that he had disappeared. Upon hearing this, Nurse Joy revealed to Watts that she had seen Watson that day, stating that he came to the center, although she noticed that he wasn't his usual self, clarifying that he definitely seemed depressed as opposed to happy and bubbly. Watts then stated that aligned with a letter that Watson had left at the gym before he left, as he handed it to Nurse Joy. Basically, the letter from Watson stated that Watson was going to the mountains to think about what to do next in life, since he was apparently giving up his career as a gym leader, believing that he wasn't strong enough anymore because his lost Ash hit him extremely hard, and apparently the letter also stated that he was going to go to the Pokemon Center to give his Pokemon to Nurse Joy until he eventually returned, having decided what he wanted to do. He basically thought that he shouldn't take his Pokemon with him while he was debating, because he figured that might influence his decision about wanting to actually become a gym leader again. So he actually was planning to leave his Pokemon fully with Nurse Joy. He wasn't even going to have Watts pick them up. Upon hearing the contents of the letter, May felt really bad for Watson and told Ash that he should probably go and comfort Watson, since Watson should know that the battle wasn't really a fair battle. When Watts heard this, he questioned what May meant, leading Ash to explain how the Raikou bot from Watson's prank had powered up Pikachu and essentially made him able to defeat all of Watson's Pokemon in one hit, which shocked Watt at how Watson had basically self-sabotaged himself with his prank. Anyways, Watts and Ash and the gang and Nurse Joy knew that they had to find Watson to tell him the truth of what had happened, so Nurse Joy and Watt began to think about where Watson could be, and eventually Nurse Joy came to the conclusion that Watson liked to go to the abandoned power plant quite a bit because of its association with electric Pokemon, so since that was like his favorite place, there was a good chance that that's where he went. So Ash, feeling bad about the unfair battle with Pikachu, led the group, including Watt, as Nurse Joy stayed at the center to go find Watson. Meanwhile, back with Watson at the power plant, alternatively known as New Marvel, Watson was now hugging Electrike, thanking Electrike for making him forget about his bad mood and all of his stresses. Electrike then jumps from Watson's arms and goes on the ground when Watson suddenly asked Electrike if it knew any cool attacks, asking Electrike to show him, since he was very interested in electric-type attacks, and he knew that Electrike was an electric type. So, Electrike obliged, growling happily as it showed Watson its Thunder Wave attack. Watson laughed as he made a joke in response to this move, commenting how Electrike clearly had a sparking personality, and Watson began to feel even more happy as seeing Electrike use Thunder Wave helped him remember when his Magnemite struggled to learn the attack and had to persevere immensely to do so. Suddenly, Watson realized that Electrike's happy growl had turned to an angry growl, and it had turned around, spotting something. So, Watson turned around as well to see what Electrike was angrily growling at. It was Team Rocket piloting a giant Pokeball-like car with a vacuum sticking out the front. And they were heading straight to the power plant to steal the electric Pokemon just as they had planned. They had only left the power plant so that they could build this machine. Once Team Rocket approached the power plant, Meowth laughed evilly as he activated the vacuum on the Pokeball car-like machine, and the vacuum smashed down on the door of the power plant, destroying it, and it began to suck all the electric Pokemon inside. And soon enough, all the Magnemite, Magneton, and Voltorb had been captured inside of a large cage in the back of the vehicle. Upon seeing how they were actually successful this time, Jesse and James began to brag about how easy it was to capture the electric Pokemon, with James putting his arms behind his head, relaxing, stating that he could just let the vacuum do all the work. He didn't have to do anything. The electric Pokemon all tried to use Thunderbolts to break out of the cage, but it did nothing, leaving Meowth to laugh once again as he explains that the cage was obviously electric-proof. It was then that Watson ran up to Team Rocket and angrily questioned what the fuck they were doing, capturing the electric Pokemon, leading Team Rocket to state their motto and explain their plan to give all the electric Pokemon to their boss. Right as Team Rocket was finishing their motto, though, it was then that Ash and the gang arrived at the power plant, along with Watts. Watson asked everyone what they were doing here, leading Watts to state that he had come back to ask Watson to be the gym leader again, but Watson put his head down in shame and remarked that he was too weak, he couldn't. But it was then that Ash told Watson the truth of how the match was a fluke and Ash didn't win fairly. This confused Watson as he turned around, asking what Ash meant by this, but Meowth interrupted by suggesting to Jesse and James that now that Ash and the gang were here, they should use the vacuum to catch Pikachu. And Meowth did this as he pressed a button to have the vacuum suck Pikachu up, and then Jesse suggested that they should get the Electrike that was by Watson as well. Watson saw the vacuum sucking in Electrike, and he tried to call out to it and pull it back, but he couldn't before it was sucked in. This leads Ash to desperately try and free Pikachu and Electrike and all the other Pokemon by sending out one of his other Pokemon to attack them. But before Ash can do this, James and Meowth press a button on the machine to fire a huge net, capturing Ash and the gang, Watson, and Watt inside, so they couldn't do anything. With Ash and the gang captured, Team Rocket happily speeds off in the vehicle, as Pikachu and Electrike sadly call out, trying to see if Ash and the gang and Watson could rescue them, but unfortunately, they couldn't, though Ash called out to Pikachu, swearing that he would get revenge on Team Rocket for capturing Pikachu and Electrike. And out of sheer determination, he managed to throw the net off of him in anger and began to ran off after Pikachu and Electrike and all the other electric Pokemon as Team Rocket drove away, although Watson stopped Ash, saying that he had a better plan, which involved none other than his Raikou bot, which he apparently kept stored at the power plant, coincidentally, when he wasn't using it at the gym. So, he got the Raikou bot out and sent it after Team Rocket, as Team Rocket was happily cheering and celebrating as they drove off about how they had actually managed to successfully steal several Pokemon. Just then, though, the robot Raikou showed up right in front of the vehicle, stopping it in its tracks. When James saw the Raikou bot, he immediately thought it was a real Raikou and began to get frightened, thinking that the Raikou would obviously do a lot of damage to them, but Meowth reminded James that Raikou was primarily an electric attacker and the machine was electric-proof, so they would be fine. But Jesse and James began to worry that Raikou may be even too strong for the machine due to it being a legendary. Although Meowth was still skeptical about this, stating that the Raikou didn't even look to be a real Raikou, almost like a robot. Meowth was the only one who picked up on this, though. Just then, it was revealed that Ash and the gang, Watson and Watt, had followed the Raikou bot and were now right behind it, as they all demanded Team Rocket to hand all the Pokemon over, and Watson made the Raikou bot roar and spark to intimidate Team Rocket, leading James to comment how Meowth was right. The Raikou was a robot, but admitted that it looked like a real Raikou and acted like one. Despite this sparking and roaring, though, Meowth, although he was beginning to doubt this, tried to convince himself that since the Raikou was just a robot, it couldn't do anything to them. But Jesse and James thought otherwise, and were very scared of what the Raikou bot could do, and hearing Jesse and James' fears, even Meowth began to get convinced of this. With Team Rocket being fully distracted by the Raikou bot, Brock and May took the opportunity to send out their Fortress and Torchic respectively to try and attack the vehicle and blow it up so that the Pokemon would get free, as Brock told his Fortress to use Rapid Spin and May told her Torchic to use Ember. Unfortunately, neither of these attacks were enough to destroy the vehicle, but Watson then got an idea when he saw that Team Rocket was still distracted by the Raikou bot, scared of it and scared that it would do something, and basically trying to convince each other when it would attack so that they could prepare. Anyways, Watson simply instructed the Raikou bot, which he apparently had some control over, to continue staring at Team Rocket, leading Watt to wonder why, leading Watson to explain that basically he was having Raikou distract Team Rocket by scaring them and just like staring them down, and then while Team Rocket was distracted, Ash and the gang, Watson and Watt, could sneak up to the back of the vehicle and retrieve all the Pokemon. Watt was doubtful that the Raikou bot would be able to distract Team Rocket for that long, suggesting that Watson should have just thrown out the Raikou bot long ago, like he had been saying. Because essentially, Watt was originally against the Raikou bot because he didn't like Watson constantly playing pranks on his challengers, and he just wanted even more reason to get rid of it. So he was like, look, I don't think it's gonna do much help here, but Watson was confident that it would be enough help, and sure enough, it was, as Raikou stared at Team Rocket and continued to roar at them, making Team Rocket completely petrified and not focusing on the Pokemon that were escaping at all, leading Watson to make a bad joke about how fucking stupid Team Rocket was, and Watt just sighed in annoyance, not wanting Watson to get too cocky. But it seemed Watson had reason to, as the escape was now going well, with Pikachu deciding to lead the escape, as it told all the other electric Pokemon to stop trying to shock the cage since it was useless, and began to use Iron Tail on the cage bars, and had Electrike bite at the cage bars. And as for the rest of the electric Pokemon, they proceeded to just tackle the bars. While this was going on, sure enough, Team Rocket was still just watching at the Raikou bot as it stared at them, wondering when it was going to make a move, with James admitting that it was sure taking a while to do anything, and Jesse suggesting that they should take the chance, while they still had one, to attack the Raikou while it wasn't attacking them. So, Jesse and James send out Seviper and Cacnea, and although Cacnea hugs James first, prickling him like usual, Seviper was still able to get off an attack on Raikou, being a Poison Tail. And Cacnea was soon able to get a Pin Missile off as well, but Team Rocket was shocked, as they had forgotten of the fact that the Raikou was actually a robot, since they were so intimidated by it, so they were immensely surprised when the robot broke into pieces. Just then, much to James' shock, he noticed the Pokemon managed to escape the vehicle with their Iron Tail, Bite, and Tackle attacks, breaking the bars of the cage. And James instantly informed Jesse and Meowth, as the three of them got mad. And Jesse questioned Meowth as to how they were able to escape the cage when it was electric-proof and durable, leading Meowth to admit that he put all of the budget of the cage into making it shock-proof, not resistant to any other attacks like Iron Tail or Tackle, leading Jessie to try and kill Meowth in anger, although she fails. Anyways, with Pikachu now free, it immediately ran up to Ash, and Ash picked it up and hugged it, and as for Electrike, it immediately ran to Watson, really liking him now, as Watson bent down to hug Electrike. Team Rocket were immensely mad now, declaring that they obviously wanted to get the Pokemon back, as they sent forth Seviper and Cacnea to attack once again, although Cacnea hugged James for a second time. So, only Seviper was able to get off a Poison Tail at first on Pikachu, as that was Team Rocket's first target, but Pikachu was able to dodge, and James was finally free from Cacnea, so Cacnea was able to use a Pin Missile, but Pikachu just dodged this again, and then used Thunderbolt on both Cacnea and Seviper. With Cacnea and Seviper both weakened, Ash then had Pikachu use Quick Attack to send Seviper and Cacnea flying, and when they hit the ground, they were both knocked out, forcing Jessie and James to recall them. However, Jessie didn't give up yet though, as she sent out her other Pokemon, Dustox. Dustox instantly used a Gust and a Whirlwind on Pikachu to send it flying back, and with Pikachu now unable to do anything, Dustox prepared to follow up with a Psybeam, but before it could, Electrike jumped in to help, using Thunder Wave to paralyze Dustox and stop it from moving. With Dustox now unable to move, Pikachu followed up with a Thunderbolt, having gotten back up from the Gust and Whirlwind, and this Thunderbolt was enough to knock Dustox onto the machine and explode the machine, knocking out Dustox and sending Team Rocket blasting off, leading Pikachu to smile very big, happy with itself that it had helped the other electric Pokemon escape and had blasted off Team Rocket. Ash then congratulated it, along with Fortress and Torchic and Electrike and all of the other electric Pokemon that had been freed. Although Ash gave most of the praise to Pikachu, believing that he was the main one to rescue everybody, but Pikachu walked up to Electrike and pointed to him, assuring Ash that he and Electrike helped in equal amounts, as both their Iron Tail and Bite were important. Ash then walks up to Watson and holds out his Dynamo badge that he got from him and puts his head down in shame, stating that Watson should have the badge back since the match was a fluke and Ash hadn't won it fairly. Watson was confused by what Ash meant by this, and this led Watt, along with Ash, to both explain to him what had happened with Pikachu and how he was essentially overcharged, and it was stronger than it would have been naturally. However, Watson simply told Ash to keep the badge, stating that returning it wasn't necessary. Ash wondered why Watson wanted him to keep it, leading Watson to state that, for one, he had saw that Pikachu was strong even without the extra power-up, as he had saw it kick Team Rocket's ass, and he also saw it manage to help free all of the other electric Pokemon, stating that if Ash didn't train it well, then it wouldn't have been able to do that. So basically, he thought that he would have lost, even if Pikachu wasn't powered up, and he also reminded Ash that it was technically his fault that Pikachu got powered up in the first place, since it was because of his Raikou bot. Ash thought that Watson may have just been playing another trick on him, and he actually did want the badge back, but Watt assured Ash that this was no prank, as Watson only did pranks right before gym battles, and otherwise, he was actually known to be a super nice dude and never lie. So Ash decided to keep the badge, as Watson had requested, happy that the badge he obtained was still a fair badge, apparently. And Ash then thanked Watson for letting him keep the badge, as he did his official badge winning pose, as he didn't do it before, but he did it now. He had officially earned his third Hoenn Gym badge, and Rockame and Max all congratulated him on his victory. Watson then picked up Electrike and claimed that he made a new friend, so there was at least something good that came out of him being sad and going to the power plant, and Electrike confirmed that it was Watson's friend, as it growled happily in his arms. Watt then suggested that Watson should return to the Marvel Gym because he wasn't a weak gym leader after all, because he had simply just lost because Pikachu was powered up. Watson reminded Watt that he probably still would have lost even if Pikachu wasn't powered up, but stated that he was in fact going to return to the Mauville Gym and become the gym leader again, stating that it was all because of his new Electrike, and he stated that he essentially wanted to train it to be his new ace, and he believed that he could become even stronger with Electrike as his ace, to the point where maybe he could even beat challengers as strong as Ash, so he definitely wanted to return to being a gym leader. As he then explained that he was feeling really fucking bad, but Electrike cheered him up and made him realize that even gym leaders were not unbeatable or unteachable, as in they could always learn something. Watson then officially asked Ash to have a rematch with him once Electrike had grown a little bit stronger, and Ash agreed to the idea, eager to see an even more powerful Watson, as Watson stated that although he definitely wasn't ashamed to lose to a powerful trainer like Ash, he did have a goal to beat him. Basically, he wasn't sad to lose to Ash, but it's not like he was happy either. Watt then begins to cry happy tears, amazed by Watson's change of heart and just the fact that he was returning to be the gym leader, as despite being an assistant, he really liked Watson being his boss. Watson laughed at how sensitive Watt was and began to make a joke about this, making everyone else laugh. So then ends with Ash and the gang saying goodbye to Watson and Watt, as Watson declares to himself that he wouldn't get bent out of shape over losing again, and would instead try to keep up laughter and a smile as much as possible.